Welcome to Executive Insights. I'm Nasheen Liu, partner with the IT Media Group, a CIO-centric media company. My guest today is Paul Lewis, Chief Technology Officer with Pythian. In his career, Paul has been a CIO and a CTO from a variety of industries, a thought leader whom I've always enjoyed talking with and learning from. In this episode, we explore a number of interesting topics, including the role of a modern CIO, areas of technology innovations to keep an eye on, the AI gold rush at the enterprise level, and much more. Hey, Paul, nice to see you and welcome back to Executive Insights.
Hello, hello. Always great to see you.
Paul, recently we've discussed the role of a modern CIO at one of our workshops moderated by you. And we talked about a new communications paradigm leading the business of IT and cultivating a talent ecosystem. These topics have really resonated with our community. And in fact, the topic of becoming a modern CIO has continued to drum up interest. So I wanted to explore a little bit more with you. We all know the role of the CIO has evolved and is evolving, but more importantly, how do we get there?
I agree with you completely. I constantly have conversations with CIOs and CTO peers on how they're going to implement these changes. I would change one word. I don't really think it's about changing. I think it's really about expanding. Because realistically, the raw basic requirements of a CIO still remain the same, right? I still have care and feeding of IT systems. I still have care and feeding of IT teams and groups and value. But what is new is an expectation to sit at the senior leadership table. What's new is being involved in strategic decision making. What's new is being responsible potentially for digital transformation and inorganic growth, and even some of those go-to-market activities, potentially even being in front of a customer. Those aren't kind of natural habits of the CIO, or at least the traditional CIO. So what you're finding is I have to do a couple things to get myself ready, get my team ready for that. And first and foremost, it's about time, right? How do you give yourself time in the week to give yourself ability to contribute to those activities? Well, the best thing you can do is empower your direct reports, right? Maybe you need to even create a COO of IT, right? To distinguish the difference between the strategic and the operational, to divide and conquer those two worlds. Secondly, I think you need to reassess those partnerships, right? It's not just, the big technology firms to which you buy from, right? The Microsofts and IBMs and Googles and Amazons. It's about saying, what's my new ecosystems of partnerships? Because it can't just be technology, but it's technology and talent and information. I need to sort of expand my reach to ensure that I have partnerships beyond just core IT. And then finally, I really have to look at how much time I spend with my peers, right? It's not about being an order taker, right? It's about contributing with the COO, with the line of business leaders, with the CMO, with the CFO, other than budgetary reasons, right? I need to spend 80% of my time with my peers, not 20% of my time with the peers. Those are the changes. That's the expansion of my role to support sort of being a new type of executive.
I'm hearing the key word here is expansion. So,
Mm-hmm.
how to expand your role and your leverage by empowering your people, by leveraging your ecosystem, and also by leveraging your influence to really cultivate and nurture those relationships with your peers across the organization.
Exactly.
It's interesting. I'm not hearing anything specific about technology itself. In fact, technology in and of itself has not always been a focal point in all of our CIO community conversations. I think partly is because it just comes with the territory. But given the velocity of innovations and the economic uncertainty, making sound investment decisions has become increasingly challenging.
Mhm.
So I wanted to get your view looking into 2024. What are some of the areas of big I and small I innovations a modern CIO should be exploring?
I think that plays into the new role of the CAO. And as you just described, I need to interface with my peers differently, and therefore their concerns, the business concerns, become more important in many ways than the technology platform concerns. Given that, the innovations are going to come out from either an industry or vertical line aligned solution set, or more like a divisional package. So when I'm talking about vertical or industry, I'm talking about things like, let's say, retail and CPG, right? What'll be important to them is new customer experiences, which are going to be far more immersive, right? You've got to think augmented reality. You've got to think virtual reality. Maybe not so far as metaverse, where I'm, jumping in holistically and buying shoes in a highly exclusively digital virtual way. But I need to interface and create sort of consumer contact, especially with multiple generations of buyers, in a different way than I have done before. So very different immersive experience from the physical store all the way to the digital experience. When I'm talking about digital innovation when it comes to the departments itself, what's more likely going to be true going forward is packages of innovation that I'll be able to consume in a corporate sense, in a commercial sense, right? It might be open source, it might be consumed or subscribed from a marketplace, but it's going to include a package of integration to a core system. It's going to include data transformation. It's going to include semantic layers of data. Customer is a customer is a customer. It'll likely even include machine learning and algorithms and visualizations. It's a complete package to which you're going to purchase on a monthly subscription. What's interesting is not only will you consume that as someone in finance or marketing, but you're likely going to package that up and make that available both internally and externally as a product that others can consume. So divisional innovation will be much more like package creation, and in industry or vertical is much more about the immersive experience, especially for things like CPG. Then, of course, what we're hearing a lot of is AI and new spending and new threats in cybersecurity. And a lot of our new innovation money is certainly going to go in there. Maybe not full commercialized experiences for Gen AI, but I'm definitely going to do some POCs. I'm definitely going to do some internal implementations of enterprise search or even conversational AI.
Love that focus on the immersive packaging, the immersive experience, all driven by the customer and market demands rather than chasing after the next shiny thing. So I'm glad you mentioned AI because that seems to be all the rage now. And ever since OpenAI announced the release of ChatGPT last year, organizations are racing to accelerate AI applications, which is very interesting because to me, there seems to be a difference between generative AI in the sense that, we all use and experiment versus an enterprise grade AI application. So what's the key difference there? And what should CIOs be mindful of when it comes to developing enterprise generative AI? What are the prerequisites?
You're entirely correct. And you're seeing the same thing we're all seeing, which is amazing, right? Generative AI, realistically, decades in the making, even though it feels like it's 120 days old, right? There's an eruption in the consumer and enterprise ontology. We're hearing it all the time. Every website you go to, every news article you read is all generative AI or Gen AI. From a consumer perspective, it all seems easy, right? I open up ChatGPT, I I enter in a fully formed question and I get an amazing full paragraph response. It's telling me exactly what I think the answer to be, and I can incorporate that answer directly into my into my PowerPoint presentation, right? It all kind of seems like magic. But the problem, of course, from an enterprise perspective, is it isn't magic. Like AI, generative AI exists to create content, right? Create text and create images and create music, but it's significantly more complex and complicated outside of the consumer implementation. By complex, I mean it has many dimensions, right? In order for me to create content, create an image, it is thousands of potential dimensions of artistry, right? Of human creativity. And when I say complicated, I simply mean it's difficult, right? There's lots of machine learning, data science, pre-created algorithms, a significant amount of data that's human created, all amalgamated into sort of a single user interface for the purpose of a conversation. In many ways, it's a computer science problem implemented in a Google search bar. Right? From the enterprise perspective, it's all the makings of significantly better customer integration, right? Enhancement. I can interact with them in a much more automated way that might not even need any staff to deliver on it. But I've got to think of two big concerns in the implementation of the enterprise. I have to think about compliance as being important and talent as being important. When I come to compliance, it's about, in many ways, privacy and IP considerations. What can I safely differentiate between data that exists outside the company and data that exists inside the company, or algorithms that were created outside the company with algorithms that are created inside the company? How do I bring those two worlds together so that I'm not exposing customer or intellectual property in my business to the outside world? On the skill set side, it's asking for new skill sets that I've never even thought of before. Think of the skill set of prompt engineering, right? The prompt is the question that you're asking. Well, imagine if you ask these questions differently, you're going to get different results. So now I need an engineer to figure out the best way to ask the question in order to get the best possible answer. Some of that's sociology, some of that's psychology, some of that is data science, some of that is algorithms creation. And if I can't effectively change the prompts, engineer the prompts, I've got to fine tune the actual complex algorithms been building over the last couple of decades. These are new enterprise skill sets that are going to be difficult to find and probably expensive to pay for.
Yeah, for sure. And, whether it's on the compliance side or on the talent side, I think fundamentally data is the most important thing because we're talking about data security and privacy here. And then from a talent perspective is the skills that are fundamentally data driven and data centric.
And do you even have the prerequisites? Like I constantly ask the question, are you ready? Right? Is all your knowledge bases inside the organization accessible by API, or can I see that data? Do I have the appropriate data lineage in place? Do I have the appropriate approvals and security? Do I have the appropriate segregation from the line of businesses? Does the customer know that I'm going to use their data for another purpose other than the original created purpose, right? So all of these are dimensions I've got to think about from both a compliance and talent perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And another topic that you mentioned when I asked for your prediction there was cybersecurity. In fact, IDC just predicted that cybersecurity will be the number one area of spending going into 2024, which is no surprise to anybody. But technology aside, I always believe that our own people can be our strongest defense or the weakest link. So let's explore the internal cybersecurity policy for a minute here. What can we do to continue to evolve those policy and processes to ensure that cybersecurity becomes second nature for our people?
You're absolutely right. In fact, I'm seeing in many ways the cybersecurity budget being segregated from the IT budget holistically, right? As if they were peer organizations that spend almost equivalent amount of money. And I've had the privilege of seeing cybersecurity programs for both a operator, a security officer, to an executive, to, of course, in the board of directors, where I get to receive, what the results of cybersecurity programs might be, or even the threats that are around. And as we know, they are increasing. There are more bad actors. They're better at what they're doing. And we need to continue to be on the forefront of sort of protecting our business, protecting our assets, protecting our reputation. But we also have to reckon with, even though there are bad actors outside the organization to which we have to protect from, it's the internal actors. It's the mistakes that are made internally, or even the mistakes that they make at home, extended family, that actually has a much bigger impact to the privacy and potential problems that might come from sort of cybersecurity attacks, right? I'm seeing big changes in cybersecurity training, right? Let's assume that you get training on a quarterly basis. It has shifted from just people who have laptops or even people who executives in IT to everybody in the organization, even end users who might not even have access to the systems or access to even a desktop device. But we need to extend their learning path to cybersecurity beyond the corporate security, but into the personal security, right? We're seeing cybersecurity training at the home, right? How do we help individuals appreciate the impact of keeping their family safe, keeping their personal records safe, better passwords for their banking, better protection for their home Wi-Fi, insurance that their children are aware of the threats, so that the children don't bring incidents to corporate networks, to corporate systems, to corporate devices. So we're seeing this evolution from just protecting the corporate company asset to protecting the individual's family systems and assets and personal records, and by extension, protects the company.
Unfortunately, nothing is siloed in this world, especially in the digital world that we live in today. Completely agree. Before we wrap up, I love to explore a very favored topic of mine, which is advancing women in technology and leadership. I know that's an important topic to you as well because you have been involved in WIT initiatives for several years now. What would be your advice for your peers who are still trying to figure out why is this topic important or how to be an ally?
For me, this has always been about diversity in my teams. In many ways, it's the D in DEI, right? For me to be an effective leader and to be an effective chief technologist, right? Chief information officer, I need a constant stream of good, interesting ideas. I also need a constant stream and debate on the goodness and value of each one of those ideas. In fact, I want a team of people that disagree with me way more than I need a team of people that agree with me. So this diversity becomes incredibly important in just being an effective technology leader, an effective chief technologist, which means I need significantly more diversity than I've ever needed in my entire career. I need diversity of thought, diversity of region, diversity of perspective, diversity of impact. And I will only achieve that diverse thinking to enable all the people in all parts of the conversation. And of course, it includes the extremely talented women in technology, from data science to development to operations to IT to desktop support. I need all of those perspectives, and talented women provide a lot of that perspective. Allyship needs to be an active activity. So if I were to provide advice to my peers, it has to be second nature, not a checkbox. It's not a program. Your goal is to create diversity and inclusion by actively and purposely creating that diversity, right? It needs to be your active mentorship and recruiting and hiring and promoting, in inclusion in all strategic discussions, in empowerment to make their own decision making, because I don't have the time or energy to make every decision. That has to be delivered throughout my entire organization to create that diverse sense of winning and potentially even losing. So my very specific advice is allyship is the only way for your leadership skills to evolve. You as an individual it can only evolve, only grow, only expand if you create the diverse team through your allyship of sort of diversity in the entire organization. It's for you to succeed and for your IT team to succeed.
Very well put. And I completely agree that being an ally means to take actions, and being an active ally, going beyond just saying the right things. And eventually that will be immensely valuable, not just for you, but for your team and for your organization. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for this enlightening and insightful conversation. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
You've been watching another episode of Executive Insights by the IT Media Group. I'm Nasheen Liu. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please check out other content on our YouTube channel, including CIO roundtable conversations and Executive Insights interviews. And don't forget to subscribe.